Bloomfield, Indiana, looked like one of those towns that felt bigger on the inside than it ever did on a map. Tree-lined streets stretched out beneath late spring skies, where clouds drifted lazily like they had nowhere urgent to be. Front porches sagged slightly with age but made up for it with personality, rocking chairs, hanging ferns, American flags faded by summers past. Lawns were trimmed just enough to look respectable without trying too hard, which was Bloomfield's unspoken philosophy about most things. Saturday morning arrived warm but not hot, the kind of weather that convinced people they'd made it through winter on good behavior alone. Downtown Bloomfield buzzed gently as the weekly farm community market opened along Main Street. White tents popped up like mushrooms overnight. Chalkboard signs leaned against curbs advertising sourdough, honey, kettle corn, and cold brew. Kids darted between adults. Dogs strained at leashes. A local acoustic guitarist tuned up beside the courthouse steps. And right into the center of this peaceful, well-balanced scene walked Ethan Parker, 34, graphic designer, chronic overthinker, and owner of a deeply unfortunate pair of smooth-soled sneakers. Ethan lived in a small duplex 3 blocks from downtown, the kind with beige siding and mismatched blinds that suggested temporary had lasted longer than planned. He wore slim jeans, a navy hoodie, and those sneakers, clean, stylish, and completely unqualified for uneven sidewalks. He carried a reusable tote bag, one strap slipping off his shoulder, and a paper cup of iced coffee sweating through the lid. Ethan had exactly one goal that morning: do not embarrass yourself. This was a personal resolution, not an abstract concept. Bloomfield was friendly, but friendly meant people noticed things. And Ethan, after a year of working remotely and avoiding crowds, had finally convinced himself to re-enter public life. He nodded at Linda Morales, the librarian, arranging bookmarks at a booth. He waved to Frank Delaney, a retired factory worker arguing cheerfully with a tomato vendor. He even smiled at Olivia Chen, the elementary school art teacher, who was juggling pastries and laughing with 2 students. Everything was going fine. Too fine. Ethan stepped off the curb near the old brick fountain, one of Bloomfield's unofficial landmarks, and that's when his left sneaker met a raised edge of sidewalk that had been cracked since approximately 1987. Time slowed. There was a moment, a beautiful, terrible moment, where Ethan tried to save it. His arms windmilled. His iced coffee launched into the air like it had escaped captivity. His tote bag swung forward, smacking him in the hip. His brain ran through 5 possible recovery strategies and rejected all of them. Then gravity made the executive decision. Ethan tripped. Not a subtle stumble. Not a quiet misstep. This was a full, cinematic, body-committed fall. His knee hit first, then his palm, then his other knee. The iced coffee came down last, exploding on the pavement in a splash of regret and oat milk. Silence followed. The market froze. A toddler gasped. A dog barked. Ethan stayed down for half a second too long, staring at the pavement inches from his face, thinking only one thing. Please let me be unconscious. Just briefly. He wasn't. Oh my, are you okay? Linda Morales called, already moving. Frank Delaney hustled over, holding a bag of peaches. Son, that sidewalk's been trying to take people out for years. Olivia Chen crouched beside him. Ethan, right, you good? Ethan pushed himself up, cheeks burning, jeans now dusted with chalky concrete, one knee stinging, hoodie sleeve damp. I meant to do that, he said, breathless. Performance art. There it was. The laugh. It started with Frank, then Linda, then Olivia, then the guitarist, who strummed an accidental chord like punctuation. Even Ethan laughed, because at that point it was either laugh or permanently relocate to another state. A teenage boy nearby whispered, "Dude recovered that pretty well," like Ethan had just stuck a landing. Someone handed him napkins. Someone else picked up his fallen tote bag. Frank offered a peach, for emotional damages. Ethan stood fully now, brushing himself off, bowing slightly like an actor acknowledging applause. Well, he said, I've peaked socially for the day. The crowd eased back into motion, the moment folding itself into Bloomfield's collective memory like a shared inside joke. But as Ethan limped away toward a bench, knee throbbing and pride bruised, he felt something unexpected beneath the embarrassment. Relief. No one mocked him. No one filmed him. No one walked away. They'd laughed with him, not at him. And that distinction mattered more than he realized yet. By the time Ethan reached the bench near the fountain, his knee throbbed in a dull, manageable way, more insult than injury. He sat with his legs stretched out, watching sunlight ripple across the water, listening to the market regain its rhythm. A few minutes later, Grace Holloway, 62, owner of the flower stall and self-appointed town encourager, appeared with a small paper cup. "Ice," she said, "for your knee, and your dignity." Ethan accepted it gratefully. "I appreciate the concern for both." Grace smiled. "You handled it well." That phrase stuck. Handled it well. Because if Ethan was honest, that hadn't always been his strength. For most of his life, embarrassment felt like a verdict. A stumble meant replaying it in his head for weeks. Avoiding places. Avoiding people. But here he was, still visible, still welcomed. Throughout the rest of the morning, people stopped by the bench. "Hey, you okay? Good save back there. My cousin wiped out here last year too." Each comment chipped away at the idea that falling in public was a permanent label. Later, Ethan forced himself back into the crowd. He bought honey. He joked with vendors. He caught his reflection in a store window, dusty jeans, scraped knee, crooked smile, and for once, didn't flinch. That evening, at home, he cleaned the scrape and laughed again. Not nervously, genuinely. Over the next weeks, something subtle shifted. Ethan stopped walking like the ground was a threat. He volunteered to help set up the next market. He joined a community sketch group Olivia invited him to. He even joked about the fall himself. "Yeah, that sidewalk got me too." One afternoon, watching a kid trip and pop back up laughing, Ethan realized the symbolism had finally landed. Falling wasn't the problem. Staying down was. On a warm June morning, Ethan walked past the same cracked sidewalk. This time, he stepped over it deliberately, smiling. The narrator, watching fondly, might say this: "Sometimes life doesn't trip you to humiliate you. Sometimes it trips you so you learn how many hands are nearby. And sometimes, the funniest fall becomes the moment you finally stand like you belong there." When Ethan Parker trips and falls in the middle of his small-town farmer's market, embarrassment hits harder than the pavement. But instead of ridicule, he's met with laughter, kindness, and helping hands. What begins as a painfully public moment turns into a lesson about resilience, community, and learning to stand comfortably in your own skin. Sometimes the fall isn't the failure. Avoiding life afterward is.
Daily happiness and motivation is hidden in. Like and subscribe.